Very friendly, a people person. He was a no nonsense person. He he was a workaholic. I think some of that transferred to me. Um, he was just a really nice person. He had his flaws like everybody else, but I know that he loved us. He knew that we loved him, and so even though there were times when we really didn't get along, he and my mother remained very good friends throughout their life. So much so that he passed away he had prostate cancer, and he was living in Digger Martin, and my mom and we lived in the east, and we said, you know what, he's ill, we have to take him in. So he came home with us, he lived with us until he passed away.
All right, and tell me possibly memories of things you all would do together as a child growing up.
One of the things I do remember was going to the beach. My dad was from Tobago, so we spent a lot of time with his family in Tobago.
Where in Tobago was he from?
Canby.
Canby.
I don't know if you would. Anybody who knows Tobago, there's a corner right by Canby Supermarket, the Penny Saver Supermarket in Canby. Just after that, there's a little orange house on the corner. That was my grandfather's house, and so my father and his 3 siblings were all born there, all grew up there. And when their mother passed away, when my father was about 18, his dad moved everybody to Trinidad. So technically, he grew up in Trinidad. From about 18, he lived in Trinidad. But 2 of his brothers stayed in Tobago. So growing up at that time, it was a lot of beach. It was a lot of going to Tobago. So I think those were the memories we had of him. Was going to the beach all the time. It was a lot of fun, and my cousins and I were very close. So we also spent a lot of time together at the beach with my father.
Okay, and you said your parents were together, would not have been together at the time of the coup.
Correct.
So what was the living situation?
My sisters and I lived with my mom, and he lived in Digger Martin. I think he and his girlfriend at the time, Cheryl Harewood, were living together. So even though we didn't have like maybe day-to-day contact, we knew, okay, he working in Regina, so he's at work. So on the day of the coup, we didn't know that he was a hostage until after they were released, because of course there were no cell phones in those days. So it's not like they were able to call. They weren't able to call on the landline, and then landlines went down. So we only found out he was a hostage after the coup.
But at what age you would have been when the coup happened?
I was 18.
Is it okay?
Yeah, I was 18. My friends and I were actually getting ready to go to a party that night. And when we saw Abu Bakr on TV, we thought, maybe Best Village going on or something. We were kind of confused. And then when he started talking, and then we saw Jones P. Madeira and then Dominic Calpis, and we said, okay, this is not a joke. This is not a play. This is real life. And so a lot of things, I was not necessarily scared, because I was staying with a friend at the time. My friends and I were all at a friend's house getting ready to go to the party. And so their father was home, mother was home. So, we were calm. They protected us. We didn't have any issues at night. And then their father took us all home the following morning. And I can remember distinctly, we had to pass by the lighthouse to go on the highway to go home. And I looked up Frederick Street, and it was just smoke. And I think that's one of my main memories of 1990.
And what were you thinking when you saw that image of Frederick Street?
I don't know. I was just thinking it was so sad. I think that's what I was thinking, because I'm a diehard Trini. I love my country, love Tobago. I might love Tobago a little more than Trinidad, but it was, to me, it was very sad. I suppose all the ramifications of it as an 18-year-old would not have been obvious to me and my friends, but to see our capital in that state, it was very sad.
And what was the experience of those 6 days?
The experience of me and my family was that we were holed up at home. So we played a lot of cards, Scrabble. That was a time where, even though there was confusion, and I think I related that to COVID now, even though there was confusion and all kinds of things happening on the outside that we were not fully informed about, there was security at home, there was love at home. We never wanted for anything. We were never involved in any looting or anything like that. So my mother kept us all at home, and we played cards into the night, played Scrabble. So we were all together. My grandmother lived with us, so it was a lot of family time, really good family time. And I think that is what a lot of people can see equating with the COVID situation now when we had the lockdown, a lot of family time. So that even though it was a confusing time and very distressing for the family, and I think even at that time for the family, it was not so distressing.
Okay, and you said, well, you didn't have contact with, as you didn't know. Also, what did you all assume was you thought he was holed up at home or something?
We
like
thought
that?
he was holed up at home. We had no clue. All we knew was that TTT was under siege and the Parliament. So we didn't think, well, Radio Trinidad involved in that too. We were not aware of that at all. And it's only after he came out, then he made contact with my mother, and we spoke to him and so on. And it was a really traumatic time for him and his colleagues who were held hostage. His girlfriend also, that iconic picture in front of TTT with a little red car, I think it's PAP, I can't remember the vehicle number, but a little red Sunny, that was her car. So she went to pick him up at 6 p.m. at the end of his workday on July 27, 1990, at the time when the coup happened. So unfortunately for her, people who were injured, the Muslimeen, I don't know what is the word, but they commandeered her and her vehicle to take people to the hospital.
Okay.
Yes, her little red car. So that little red car, that was Cheryl's car, unfortunately. And so she, after the coup and so on, she had a nervous breakdown and she left Trinidad.
So, and after they commandeered her vehicle and they kept her hostage after that? What?
I think they let her go.
You let her go?
Yeah, they let her go. But they had her back and forth to the hospital with injured people at gunpoint. And so, yeah.
Okay, and tell me about that. Well, your mother would have been the one speaking with your father, but tell me about when you first found out that, I guess when your mother told you, hey, your father was a hostage.
I think there was shock for us, because again, we really had no clue that he was involved in this at all. So we were trying to figure out, well, what was his reaction? Was he injured? Well, obviously we found out that he wasn't injured, but more psychological than anything else. He never really recovered from that. Even though they were sent for counseling and all of that, he never really recovered.
And when next did you see him?
Very vague. I can't remember. I can't remember. But I don't recall us ever having a sit-down discussion about what happened and what did you do and how did you. We just got the information through my mom that he was okay, and I suppose she was probably trying to protect us as well. You know, he's okay, nothing is wrong with him. He's been released, and so he should be okay.
And you said like he was affected by it after. Tell me what are some of the things you noticed? He was never, I think, an introverted person, but he was quieter. He was very introspective after that. There was nothing you could say about the Muslimeen or Abu Bakr. Those were taboo topics.
You couldn't talk about it.
Did he ever talk about it?
Never talked about it. Not to us anyway. Those were taboo topics. And so I have to admit as well that I don't want to hear about Abu Bakr. I don't want to. That. Because I understand what it did to him and his colleagues and what it did to the nation. And so now 30 years later, it's kind of ironic that that's where I work, So it's a sore point for me in particular because of the effect it had on my father. He never recovered. He was never the same.
And do you think that had an effect on you as well too?
I think it had an effect on me. I have always, I wouldn't say the word is revered, but I've always had a love for the Red House. I went to St. Ursula's Girls with my sister, younger sister, and so my mom used to work at Winshaw, and we used to walk down St. Vincent Street, pass through the rotunda, drink water in the small water fountain, not the big one in the center, and then go to meet her. So from a child, I knew this is this grand building where they have sittings, And then they used to have weddings on the ground floor in the warden's office. So I used to see people getting married and all that. So to me, the Red House was just this grand, fantastic building. And then to see what had been done to it, it was really, and to the psyche of the people, I think that was not just an attack on a building, but an attack on our democracy, an attack on us as a nation. And it has affected me. I cannot justify. There's nothing that anybody could say to me that could justify the coup, the attempted coup.
And do you think with the nation is still scarred from that 30 years on?
I think it's still scarred. Lots of things I think came out of it, that I'm sure would be obvious to people, so I don't have to say. And so I don't see how, even though we had the Commission of Inquiry, which to me was much too late, even though we had a Commission of Inquiry, it was so late in the game that really there was nothing anybody could do to fix what happened 30 years ago, to bring a salve to the nation. 30 years later, I think people will come, if there's anything happening on that day, any commemoration, people will come and they will talk about the raw pain and the raw hurt that they felt from 30 years ago. I'm sure there were people like me, youth, teenagers, even young adults who were seriously affected by it. We still have staff working at Parliament now who were there on the day of the coup. They experienced it, and yet they continue to work at the Parliament. So for them, I'm sure 30 years on and all the commemorations and all the things that'll be said and done now, it will obviously bring back memories.
And how, you work at the Parliament, you work at the Red House. How does it feel for you now, being there at a place that you was attacked and scarred?
Of course, I think maybe me and my colleagues as well, we think, well, could it happen again? We certainly don't want it to happen again. We just went through this multi-year renovation. So one, we don't want to see that go to waste. And two, we really do not want to see our democracy attacked in that way again. If you want to change a government, you go and you vote. Whether it's a government that comes into power that you like or don't like. That is the way that we as a society have decided that's how we change governments. It is not by burning down the Red House and holding the Prime Minister hostage. And innocent people hostage, innocent people died. I cannot fathom, and I could never understand why that needed to take place. But it happens in other countries, and I suppose people say it creates good or good comes out of it, but not for Trinidad.
You don't think any good came out of it?
I don't think so.
And do you think the people who died, your father and others were held hostage, do you think they received justice?
No. I don't think so. I would not say what justice would look like for me, but I don't think they received justice.
And do you think anything can be done at this point?
I don't know. I think the one thing that was missing from the Commission of Inquiry was testimony from Yasin Abu Bakr. And I think that may have helped to cover some of the wounds, or to help people to understand what happened a little more. But he didn't make himself available for testimony, so people couldn't, some questions of why and how, and the policeman who was killed at the entrance to police headquarters, a lot of these things that happened that really should not have happened, and I don't think that there's anything that could be said, even if sorry comes now, sorry, just that word alone, I don't think it'll be enough.